In 1981, Steve Callahan set sail from the Canary Islands. He was bound for the Caribbean aboard his small, self-designed sloop. The journey was a dream, a solo voyage across the vast Atlantic Ocean on a vessel he called Napoleon Solo. An experienced sailor and naval architect, Callahan felt at home on the water. He had spent years preparing for this trip, confident in his boat and his abilities to handle the challenges of the open sea. He was ready for adventure. Just 6 days into his journey, a fierce storm battered his small vessel. At night, while he was resting below deck, a tremendous impact jolted the boat. It felt like a collision, possibly with a whale in the deep, dark waters. Water immediately began pouring into the cabin. The hull was breached, and the Napoleon Solo was sinking fast. In the chaos and darkness, Callahan knew he had only minutes to abandon the ship that had been his home. He scrambled to deploy his 6-person life raft, a small, inflatable circle that would become his entire world. He grabbed his emergency kit, a spear gun, and a few other vital supplies before his beloved boat slipped beneath the waves. Watching the mast of the Napoleon Solo disappear was a heartbreaking moment. He was now utterly alone, a tiny speck in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, with nothing but a rubber ring between him and the deep. He took stock of his meager supplies. He had a basic survival kit, a few solar stills for making drinking water, some food, and his spear gun. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough to survive. Days bled into nights. The sheer scale of the ocean was overwhelming. The horizon was an unbroken circle of blue, a constant reminder of his isolation and the immense distance that separated him from any form of land or help. His most critical task was creating fresh water. The 2 solar stills, simple devices that use the sun to distill seawater, became his lifeline. They produced just enough water each day for him to barely survive the constant dehydration. Food was the next challenge. Using his spear gun, he learned to hunt the marine life that gathered beneath his raft. His main prey were dorados, beautiful and powerful fish that provided crucial sustenance in his fight for life. These fish, which he called his companions, became a source of hope. Their presence meant he had a chance to eat. They followed his raft, creating a small, moving ecosystem that he depended on for his daily meals. He ate the fish raw, conserving every part of it. The meat provided protein, while the fluids and organs offered other nutrients. This difficult diet was essential for keeping his body going against the incredible strain of survival. The physical toll was immense. The constant exposure to salt water created painful sores all over his body. His muscles wasted away from lack of use, and his body grew weaker with each passing day on the unforgiving ocean. Mentally, the isolation was a heavy burden. He battled despair, loneliness, and the fear that he would never be found. He had to force himself to maintain a routine, to keep his mind occupied and focused on the single goal of survival. Disaster struck again when his raft was punctured. He spent days fighting to keep his small, inflatable world afloat, patching one hole only to find another. The constant threat of sinking added a new layer of terror to his ordeal. Sharks were a constant presence, drawn to the fish he was catching. They would often bump against the raft, a terrifying reminder of the predators that lurked just inches away from him in the water below. He spotted several ships during his drift. Each sighting brought a surge of adrenaline and hope. He was a tiny target in a vast ocean, but surely one of them would see him and come to his rescue. He used his precious flares, sending bright signals of distress into the sky. Yet, each time, the ships continued on their course, too far away to notice his desperate plea for help. The hope would turn to crushing despair. Watching a potential rescue sail away was one of the hardest psychological blows. The feeling of being invisible, of being left behind by the world, was a difficult burden to bear alone on the empty sea. At night, he would stare at the stars. The celestial display was breathtakingly beautiful, a source of wonder and perspective. He used the constellations to track his westward drift, a navigator even in the most desperate of circumstances. After more than 2 months adrift, he saw a new sign of life. Birds began to appear in the sky. He knew that birds meant land was not impossibly far away. It was the first real glimmer of hope in weeks. The ocean itself began to change. The deep, dark blue of the open Atlantic slowly gave way to a lighter, turquoise hue. This change in color signaled that he was drifting over a continental shelf, getting closer to land. Then he saw it, a smudge on the horizon that slowly grew into the definite shape of land. It was the island of Guadeloupe. After drifting over 1,800 nautical miles, his impossible journey across the Atlantic was nearing an end. On the 76th day, he was spotted. 3 fishermen, out for their daily catch, saw his battered raft. At first, they were hesitant, unsure of what they were seeing, but then they realized it was a survivor. They pulled him from the water, ending his 76-day ordeal. He was severely underweight, weak, and covered in sores, but he was alive. His will to live had carried him across the ocean against all imaginable odds. On the boat, the fishermen gave him water and food. It was a simple act of kindness that felt monumental. After so long alone, the human contact and compassion were as healing as the nourishment he desperately needed. Stepping onto solid ground was a strange and emotional experience. His legs had forgotten how to walk properly. The world, which had been a rocking, unstable surface for so long, was now blessedly still and firm beneath his feet. Steve Callahan's journey was a testament to human endurance and ingenuity. His story reminds us that even in the most hopeless situations, the simple act of facing the next sunrise can be the greatest victory of all.